Hey guys, it's Doc from the Gold Hog, and today I'm going to be talking to you about our new Hog Moss, which is really just miner's moss, but it's a type of miner's moss that we've chosen that we think probably works the best of all the mosses that we've used. There's a lot of different brands, there's a lot of different manufacturers and suppliers to this. So you'd be surprised when we started sourcing this stuff out and figuring out what we wanted to sell. We came up with about 14 different types before we chose on this one. And we've tested almost all of them. And this has been several months we've been doing this. Let me tell you why we actually do this now. We have a lot of commercial operations that use miner's moss. And a lot of times they have to use miner's moss really because of the fact that they're running such big sluices. They've got a 36-inch wide sluice. They're running 30,000 gallons per hour through that thing, some of them more. And they have huge 3-4 inch riffles, and it's a tremendous volume. They really can't use our mats in that situation. What they use our mats for is they use our mats in an after sluice, where after it runs through the main sluice, they actually take that slurry, they widen it out, they flatten it out, and they smooth it down and run it across our mats in the secondary system to catch a lot of the fine gold that's being missed after a 6-8 hour run through the normal sluice. So we actually use this sometimes now too, and then plus there's a lot of people that just like to use miner's moss, but we actually use this sometimes in our header boxes, and we'll put our UR mat on the main sluice, and then we'll put this Hog Moss on top of the UR. So I'll show you that in just a second. But again, there's no huge announcements here. There's nothing super special about this product. It just came down to sort of evaluating the products and saying which one do we think works the best. And it's not just best in catching gold, but all around performance. So I'm going to show you a couple different things. Now I've got a separate camera set up over here too, so I'm going to be trying to get this on 2 different cameras so you can get a closer view of this. So I'm going to show you a couple different products so you can compare them yourself. So let's take a look at a couple of different products. Number one, this is our new Hog Moss that we have. It's a vinyl product. It's really tough. It's really, really durable. But as an example, here is another brand, and I want you to look at I really want you to look at the difference in the depth of this. But you can sort of see that it overshadows it. The Hog Moss is about 3/8 of an inch, I'd say, about 3/8 of an inch, just under a 1/2 inch, and this stuff is almost a full inch. It's about 3/4 of an inch. I don't know how people use this stuff inside of a sluice under normal settings. I just can't see it working. It's just way too thick. It's very tough. It's just trying to get this under normal riffles or expanded metal. Plus, when you're running moss, any type of moss, you really should have something under it, whether it's a small V-rib, a large V-rib, or our UR mat, which we like to run under it. Now, by the time you put something under this product, I mean, it's going to be huge. It's going to be over 1 inch thick, and I just don't know how people fit that into the normal sluice systems. So while this is good quality, it's just way too thick. I mean, it's just enormous. So we canceled this one out because it's way too thick. Then the other traditional one this is more of a traditional miner's moss that you might see. It's about the same depth as ours. I'd say it's roughly 3/8 of an inch. But what we don't like about this is, number one, it has too much open area, and it's too soft and density wise. So if you watch here, when I push, it's real squishy. And yes, that's a technical term. So it's real squishy. It's very, very soft. You can compress this down very, very easily. It's very, very soft. It's not dense at all. Compare that to our moss. When you push it down and try and compress it, it's very, very hard to compress. It's actually kind of dense. But at the same time, when you hold this up to the light, This one, when you hold up to the light and look through it, you can see about I would say probably 60% open area, versus the moss, when you hold it up, it's probably about 45% open area. And why that's important is the lights enter this type material very, very easily. It just, all kinds of light material just goes in there, and now you've got to use extreme force to try and clean this out and blow this out. With this moss, with our hog moss, it's a little bit more difficult. So when material goes and hides behind a riffle or expanded metal, it sort of sits there and it has to sort of work into the moss, and that's what we want to see. We don't want to see the moss just fill up right away. We want material to come in behind a riffle or come in behind a piece of expanded, sit there for a minute and have to slowly work down. If it immediately goes into that type moss, into this type thinner moss, you're going to have a hard time getting it out as far as an exchange rate. So we want to see it sort of sit there and have to gradually work down. So that's an important factor about it too. The other thing that's important is, you know, the way that a gold recovery and exchange system works is you have either, some people call it a low pressure zone, I like to call it a low velocity zone. So water comes into a riffle, it hits that riffle, has to go over it, and there's a vortex back here or a low pressure zone. So hopefully you're hoping that the heavier material sits back here on a traditional riffle or even expanded metal. It's basically the same thing. The problem with this type lighter matting is that because it compresses, when you set your riffles and snap your riffles or put in your expanded metal on top of it, it actually fills up. In other words, if you're supposed to have a vortex or a riffle space here, it'll actually come up inside and actually fill up that vortex where the space that the vortex is supposed to be. And I'm going to try and show that to you, give you an example over here. So I'm just going to grab some scraps. I'm just going to grab some scraps real quick and try and get you to see that. It might be a little bit hard, but I'm going to try and get you to see what happens on this. But when I do this, if I push down on this, it actually fills up this space here, and it's hard to see, I know. But it actually, I'm going to grab the camera in a minute and show you up close. But when you push down on this, it fills up that space. So when I lock it in, I've got miner's moss actually coming up here and sort of bubbling up behind this right here. And anyone who's used moss has seen that before. Same thing. If I use 3/4 inch expanded, if I use the 3/4 inch expanded and I push down, I put this on top and I push down on this, these holes where the vortex is supposed to be is actually now filled with that moss. So I no longer have, and once you start to get some material in here, it just becomes a solid, this becomes a solid ramp. It doesn't even give it a space for that vortex to form anymore. Now the difference, the same thing with 1/2 inch, the 1/2 inch does it as well. So let me get our moss and show you the difference here. So when you put this on now, if you push down on this riffle, it will not go in. It's solid. It's dense enough that the moss does not rise up and fill that space behind this riffle in here. So if you push down and push down almost as hard as you want, it's not going to fill up that space. Same thing with 3/4 inch. If you take your 3/4 inch aluminum or even 1/2 inch and you can push down as hard as you want, and it will not fill up that space that's designed for the vortex. So that's important too. So that's really why we chose this stuff. Now the way we do it is we actually take our UR mat, this one's dirty. We actually take our UR mat and we have UR mat under our header box. That is under our header box with these grooves in it, and you can see these grooves. So we put this down and then we put the moss on top of that. So now what you have is you have this sort of situation where as you have that exchange happening, it works in here and the heavies start to settle, and when you lift this up, you'll actually see a bunch of light, a bunch of real fine stuff down in here down in these grooves down here, and it really works well. We catch a bunch of fine gold that way under the header box. And the reason why we use it on the header box is because it's so violent. In other words, everything's crashing down inside this box, and it's really working this area. And it's the UR mat alone does a good job. If you have a real violent header area, drop area, it's a good way to do it. And of course, durability wise, this is my last piece of this, so I'm gonna try and do it here. But durability wise, I can take this moss. This is that other moss, not ours. I can take this and I can rip it. So I sure hope that this comes out video-wise, because I just ripped the last piece. So I can take this moss and I can rip it, and it's not that durable, to be honest. This hog moss, I don't care what you do to it, I'm pulling as hard as I can. But I just can't get it to rip. So it's extremely durable too, and that's what we like about it. Plus, you're gonna see, we're gonna take you out to the field, we're gonna be shooting some video out in the field, and I'm gonna show you how you'll have fewer lights in this than you would with, say, something that's really, really thick, or this low density material that's not very, it's very light and very, has a lot of open area. You'll have a lot fewer lights in our hog moss than you will in this. You'll see when we do this run out in the field that I'm going to show you here in a minute, you have basically just black sand and gold with a little bit of silt. You'll always have that silt dust in it. You'll always have mica in it because it wants to work down quickly. But we have a lot fewer pieces of light quartz. The light quartz sits on there and sort of blows out of it. The other thing is cleanup time. If you have this type of moss, it's a bear to clean. You'll sit there sometimes for weeks and pick rocks out of this. Now the hog moss, it's still a little hard to clean up, but I would say it's probably about 30% easier to clean than that stuff, because all you got to do is fold it, knock it against the side of a bucket, and you'll see all those rocks come out. As far as the black sand and the gold, you just rinse, 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 boom, it's clean. But as far as any of the rocks inside of there or larger gold, you just fold it up and just knock it about 4 times against the side of a pail or a bucket, and it comes out real clean. So we're going to start selling this. Oh, and of course I forgot price point wise. Price point wise, the mosses really aren't too much difference in price wise, but we wanted to have one. This was another factor we chose in it. You'll find that our pricing on it is pretty good. So in comparison to what else is out there, we think it's probably one of the lower costs as far as moss goes too. The way that you order it is you order it by the inch. So it's 36 inches. Our rolls are 36 inches wide, so you would order an inch. So if you have a 10-inch wide sluice, you would order 10 units of that, and that'll give you a 10-inch wide by 36-inch long strip. And no, we don't have it longer. So if you have a 48, you would order 2 10-inch strips and put it together. Now, we have commercial ops that we work with that we're selling this to now, and if you're a commercial operation and need miner's moss and you need it 36-inch wide or 30-inch wide, you would order it the opposite way. So your 36 now becomes your width. So you think about it, just think about it opposite. So you would have to order, if you have a 100-inch long sluice, you would order it as a commercial operation, 36 inches by 105 units. So that's about it. I'm going to take you out to the field and show you some stuff in the field on this stuff running.
Hey guys, it's Doc, and we're down here today and we're doing some dredging. It's actually pretty busy because we're down here and it's a weekend, holiday weekend, and there's quite a few people here, so it's actually kind of nice. A bunch of people all around, there's kids running around. I'll probably show you some of that hog moss that we've been playing with. A lot of commercial operations and a lot of people like miner's moss. If we're working with commercial ops, they're 36-inch wide, running thousands of gallons, they have to run miner's moss, and they'll put our matting as an after sluice product to catch a lot of that fine gold. But I want to show you what we're doing is we're running bare mats, UR into the header box, then we go to scrubber, then we go to razorback, then we go to UR. But on the last 2 sections of UR, I've got 1/2 inch expanded in this new hog moss that we're dealing with. Now, the other thing I want you to look at is look at how we install this, because we just put it on top of the mat with some boards and clamps. And what ends up happening is it hits that moss, it creates its own little riffle, a low pressure zone, and you'll see like a little riffle, and then it tails off. It's actually pretty cool. So I'm going to show you some of that and hopefully show you some gold today too. Okay, I'm getting ready to show you this new setup with that little piece of hog moss on it, but you're not going to be able to hear me. But I want you to look for that little riffle it creates. Okay guys, so here is, we just shut down, and you can see what happens. It hits this little elevated ramp and creates a riffle right here, and so I'll have a heavy buildup here, but you can see, look at all the black sand in there. And what I like about this hog moss is that you can see it's not really heavy open. It's actually a little bit tighter than normal, which the heavies have struggled to get down in there, which is nice. But when we do longer runs, sometimes we like to run this piece. So I'm going to take it off real quick. Let you look at this one. So take this off. And you can see all that heavy black sand. It's real pretty. But look at that. I mean, that's just nothing but black sand worked in there. All the lights just go on by this stuff. It doesn't fill up with a lot of lights. Now, if it's real fine, silty light, it still will grab it. You can see how, look at the bottom of it, how it's still open. It looks like there's open areas. And so what I've got here, I've got UR mat underneath, and I'll have lights and heavies down in here, because it'll just keep working down and working down. So it's a great little filter system. Alright, so here's the other one. Again, here's that little spot that I love to see. This is, again, it hits this. This is about a 1/2 inch high total. Creates a little vortex right in here, and you can see the heavy buildup right in here. And those rocks just sort of sit right there. Lots of black sand, and then it sort of skims down. This is a great little trick. Again, we tried that with this light miner's moss, and it just filled up with lights were too quick. But let me pull this off. But you can see all the heavies just crammed into this thing. And that is just too cool looking. And then when I pull it back, again, you'll see that the back is still pretty open. And what ends up happening is, of course, heavies will fall into this little chambers down here in the UR mat. So that's a great little trick. Okay guys, so they're over there cleaning out that dredge over there, but this took 30 seconds to clean out, and that's what I like about it. I mean, you just rinse it, bang it against the side, and look how clean that is. You can see right through it. You can see light shining through it, but it doesn't battle you on that cleanup, which is what I like about it. Nice and clean. I'm going to hold it this way so you can see maybe some of it. But look how clean that is. 30 seconds. Just dip it, bang it, you're done. Really nice.